Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm Jawad Tehami. Just a few hours after the inauguration of Donald Trump as the 47th President of the United States of America, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin held a video call, and this particular video call lasted more than 1.5 hours. President Putin called Xi Jinping a dear friend and said Russia and China were building ties on the basis of friendship, mutual support despite external pressure. For his part, Chinese President Xi Jinping called on President Putin to continue deepening strategic coordination, firming up mutual support and safeguarding the legitimate interests. They also have confirmed their readiness to build a relationship with the United States of America on a mutually beneficial and respectful basis if President Trump's team shows an interest in that. Also, for a fact, we know that earlier President Xi Jinping congratulated President Donald Trump just before his inauguration in a phone call, which President Donald Trump described as very good. President Xi Jinping expressed his readiness to secure greater progress in China-US relations from a new starting point. We also saw that right after his inauguration on Tuesday, President Donald Trump had threatened to sanction Russia if its President Vladimir Putin refuses to end the war in Ukraine. And President Trump, in that particular phone call with President Xi Jinping, had said he had pressed President Xi Jinping to intervene to stop the war in Ukraine. A number of other important statements made during these interactions. I will be taking all these interactions up for discussion in the light of the recent inauguration of President Donald Trump as the 47th President of the United States of America. What could be expected amid that growing, ever-emerging relationship between China and Russia, which is being termed as a no-limit partnership between the two countries. Also, we also know for a fact there was an endeavor made by Chinese side with its 12-point peace proposal to end the crisis in Ukraine. How the trajectory of President Donald Trump's policy had been during his first term and what could be expected during his second term as far as his policy towards both Russia and China is concerned. For that, we are honored to be joined in the studio by Mr. Khalid Taimur Akram, international relations expert. Mr. Akram, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Mr. Akram, before heading on to these latest developments, the latest interactions between these leaders and what could be expected in the future ahead as far as United States policy under Trump 2.0 is concerned towards Russia and China, let's take a quicker stock of how his policy towards both China and Russia had been in the first term.
Yes, thank you very much. In first term, we had seen President Trump had quite an offensive policy towards China and Russia. Once President Trump won his election for the first time, one of the few first phone calls which he attended, the congratulatory call was from the Taiwanese president, and which was not liked by China. And during his first term, we had seen that President Trump was always engaged in war of words with China, and of course with Russia also. And President Trump had even then declared China as a country of concern. And then we saw COVID coming, and then we saw President Trump blaming solely China for the spread of the COVID. And once he left the office, he did not left the office in a good tone with China. Mm-hmm. And now coming over to his new tenure, and you will see that we have seen, I watched his speech, his inaugural speech, and in his inaugural speech, he repeatedly mentioned about China, mm-hmm. and it seemed that China is on his head. Of mm-hmm. course, he's a businessman, and as a businessman, he feels China as a competitor of the business people in America. Mm-hmm. He mentioned about China. He said that China is the biggest user of Panama Canal. And he said that we are going to take over Panama Canal, and there he mentioned about China. Then President Trump withdrew from WHO. World Health Organization is one of the most important organizations, and he withdrew on the plea that America is contributing 350 million US dollar per year to WHO, whereas China is only contributing 39 million US dollars. And he said because China is contributing less, so that is why we are withdrawing from WHO. And there are a number of other occasions in which President Trump, while signing the executive orders, had mentioned about China. He talked about increasing the tariff with China. He talked about increasing more regulatory regulations on trade with China. It is obvious that he's concerned about China because, as I said, President Trump's background is of business, and he has a lot of pressure from the business community of US to put sanctions on China so that the American industry should grow. And during his speech, one of the words he said that we will again make the US a leader in industry, because since 9/11, the US tagline of the US industry is the military industrial complex. But Trump is a businessman. He wants to shift from the military industrial complex to the normal business. But that space in last 20 years has been occupied by China.
Okay, so what I understand from your take is his policy during his first term has been largely of competition and confrontation towards China. Mr. Akram, do you have also any sort of a hope? Because by looking at this particular statement during that particular phone call between President Xi Jinping and President Donald Trump, President Xi Jinping made a very important statement, and he has also expressed his desire to build this particular relationship from a new starting point. So we also see that realization in the top Chinese leadership that it is natural to have disagreements and differences on this particular level. But he also said that the two great nations of China and the United States are pursuing their respective dreams, and both are committed to delivering a better life to their people. They've got extensive common interests, broad space of cooperation between the two countries. China and the US can become partners and friends, contribute to each other's success, and advance shared prosperity with the good of the two countries and the world as well.
Yes, as you know that since 2013, once President Xi Jinping gave the concept of the community of the shared future, and then in the same year he gave the concept of the Belt and Road Initiative. So since then, President Xi has been advocating the concept of the community of the shared future. The concept basically entails that all the nations should work together, they should remain within their sovereign boundaries, and they should not attack each other, no war, because these kinds of war also does not suit China, because China is expanding the connectivity through rail networks, road networks, and maritime networks. So for China, any kind of war anywhere, whether in Middle East or in Russia, Ukraine, or in somewhere in Africa, would mean halting of the grand designs of the BRI. And if you see during the last APEC meeting last year, once President Xi went to America, he told President Joe Biden that China is not in competition with the US. China feels that if US is a superpower, China agrees to that. What China only wants it that if it wants its due share in trade, it wants its due share in connectivity. And thinking that, and whatever President Xi Jinping has been advocating since last 15 years, so he has offered the same olive branch to President Trump. Now it is up to President Trump that how would he take it, because China does not want any kind of confrontation, not only with US but with any other country, because China's program of the Belt and Road Initiative, Community with Shared Future, Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiatives, and Global Civilization Initiatives are all for enhancing the connectivity
with the
the world.
connectivity towards the mutually beneficial relationship, also
yes.
the win-win cooperation
Yes.
for all. But by looking at this particular statement during that particular call of President Trump with President Xi Jinping, Donald Trump thanked President Xi Jinping, of course, for the congratulations. Then he values his relations with President Xi Jinping. He hoped that he would be keen to talking to each other and looked forward to meeting with President Xi soon. As the most important countries in the world, the US and China should get along well for years and beyond and work together for
Yes.
the world peace. And it's also, when we talk about the significance of Chinese role in the resolution of the Ukraine conflict is concerned, let me quote Mr. Trump. He says he's not done very much on that. He's got a lot of power, like we have a lot of power, and you ought to get it settled. We did discuss it in that particular phone call. Here, he's recognizing that how significant role Chinese president has got when it comes to the resolution of the Ukraine conflict is concerned.
Yes, absolutely right.
So do you see it a huge or a considerable shift from what President Trump was towards China in his first term as compared to what he has now at the moment?
Actually, as Mr. Zamir had also said, that now President Trump is more mature in politics. Now President Trump has a specific agenda. He has said America first. He wants to bring America in the forefront of trade. He wants to revive the American industry other than the defense industry. And for that, he knows that China is not that China which was 80 years ago or which was 4 years ago. China is now a reality. China is now an economic superpower. Without Chinese interference or without Chinese help in the region, he cannot operate in this region, especially in the South region, in the global South. China has got a lot of say, because President Trump would need China to resolve Ukraine crisis. President Trump would need China to even in Afghanistan also, because China has now considerable influence over the Afghan Taliban also. So tomorrow, if President Trump feels any kind of issues in this region, he is going to seek help from China. But at the same time, we must underline this thing, that President Trump is under immense pressure from the business community of America to put sanctions or economic or trade sanctions on China, so that the US industry can flourish. And this is the baseline. As we know, during the inauguration ceremony, if you must have seen that the new administration people, they were sitting on the back benches. In the front, and all the tech and all the billionaires were sitting on the front. So President Trump wants to take along all the business people with him, and since he himself is a businessman, he is going to pursue his Abrahamic Accord in Middle East. He is going to pursue his policies of electric vehicles. He is going to pursue many of his policies regarding Latin American countries. But at the same time, one thing is at the back of his mind is this, that China has now got a lot of influence in Latin America. BRI now has 155 partners. BRI is now expanded. BRI is near completion. The infrastructure part is already completed, and the Latin American countries are standing with China. The African countries are standing with China. The Asian countries are standing with China. So China is a reality. So he has to strike a balance between whatever he's saying and whatever he is going to do.
Striking that balance amid that particular pressure that you've already mentioned from that business community from within the US, do you think that would be easily achievable?
No, not for him. It will not be easily achievable for him, because right now we are seeing that all the appointments which he has made, they're from the business community. Lot of old politicians from his own party are sidelined, and he has brought up young blood in that. And most of them are the new people in his cabinet. They are not very much pro-China. They would like to go along with the America First policy, and they would like to, in the energy sector also, in the education sector also, in the health sector also. So we may see President Trump going to their pressure and walking out of various international agreements where China has an upper hand, like we saw in WHO. in WHO, he said that why should we contribute more if China is not contributing more? So he is going to put his pressure on China through various means, but at the same time he realizes the fact that without China it will be impossible for him to have a balanced approach in the world.
Right. Mr. Akram, this no-limit partnership between Russia and China, and do you see it a sort of a coincidence that this particular phone call between President Xi Jinping and President Putin happened a few hours after that inauguration of President Donald Trump? Was it aimed at sending a message?
Yes, this phone call I think was a message to President Trump that because his speech was quite, I would say, aggressive, and his speech had basically was not of a president's inaugural speech. It was a very aggressive speech. He even spoke lots of things about President Joe Biden, who was just sitting over there. He did not care whether Biden or Kamala Harris are sitting over there. So similarly, he made very strong statements about China. So this phone call, and a very long phone call, and normally there is a very less coming out from China and Russia, but this time we saw a very elaborate press release, and along with the videos coming out from China also and from Russia also. So yes, this was a message to President Trump that he should better not mess up, he should better not give aggressive statements, because China thinks that even the aggressive statements can destabilize the situation. China has been playing a very, very mediatory role between lots of countries. We have seen recently China has played a role in Myanmar also. We have seen China played a role between Iran and Saudi Arabia also. China in fact brought all the Palestinian factions on one platform. If today President Trump is taking a credit of ending the Palestine-Israel war, but we must not forget that it was China who had basically took this initiative, that all the factions of the Palestinian resistance, they sat together and they were on one voice. Otherwise, this deal was not possible. So China's role is very, very important. But this phone call, yes, it is a message to President Trump that he should not, he's not allowed to say whatever he wants to say, because China is not that old China. China is now an economic power. You just can't stand up and start threatening a country. You just can't stand up and say, tomorrow we are not going to take your goods. So there has to be a rationale. You have to talk. So I think the more this kind of pressure President Trump would put, China would not reply aggressively. But yes, China has its own way of replying to these sorts of things. During this last tenure, we saw how he banned Huawei. We saw lots of things happening, but this time I don't think that China is not going to give this much of space to President Trump that he can just play around with China.
Or what about, as you already mentioned, China's increased mediatory role? And when it comes to the resolution of the Ukraine conflict, and President Trump's desire of China's intervention in that?
Yes, China will definitely play a role. China and Brazil had already given a plan. China is sitting with Russia in Shanghai Cooperation Organization, in BRICS also, and President Putin and President Xi Jinping, they have a personal friendship also. Of course, this war is going to end very soon, and because the more influenced by China, but at the same time, America has to stop arming Ukraine, because we have seen that before President Biden had given billions of money to Ukrainians. So will President Trump stop that money? So what is going to happen? Because President Trump has to stop the flow of weapons and he has to stop the flow of money to Ukraine. He has to give a shut-up call to Ukraine that it's high time, now you must sit with the Russians and take a decision and stop this war, because all the onus for stopping the war is not on Russia. The similar kind of onus is on NATO also and is on US also.
And more interestingly, when it was supplying Ukraine with weapons, the Secretary of State had been continuously accusing China of supporting the war machine of Russia.
Yes, but China had not been supplying that kind of weapons which NATO and America had been supplying to Zelensky. We have seen they have been supplying them with all kinds of lethal weapons. We have seen ICBMs being supplied to them. We have seen deadly drones being supplied to them. But China had been giving diplomatic support to Russia. China had been standing with the Russian president all along. China has helped Russia in the trade, because China and Russia now doing their trade in Chinese RMB because of the sanctions on Russia. At the same time, I would again say that if the onus for stopping the war is on Russia, the similar kind of onus for stopping the war is on President Trump also.
Right. We were joined by Mr. Khalid Taimur Akram, international relations expert. Mr. Akram, thank you very much for your time. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.